Hello and welcome to episode 167 of the Colby Cast, your place for community and conversation about pop culture and storytelling. On this episode, we are going to throw our naked voices into the huge pool of podcasts talking about The Acolyte. And joining me to do so, there has been no mistake, is Caleb. Hello, Caleb.
Hi.
As you may understand from the reference that I just put in there, to a certain scene in The Acolyte, but there's also another reference to the other show we're going to be talking about, which is House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 3. So we're going to be tackling them both tonight like we did last week. I had so much fun. I said, why don't we do it again? So I can't wait to hear what you have to say about these two different episodes because they were drastically different. But I also couldn't start the show without reminding everybody that, hey, it's 4th of July. So happy 4th of July, everybody out there. Hope everybody's going to have a great holiday. Hope everybody's going to have a safe holiday. Hope everybody's going to enjoy your cookouts and your barbecues and your beach days and whatever it is that you do. Because here at the Colby Cast, I think we're going to do a little bit of swimming. We're going to hit the pool. We're going to eat some burgers, maybe some pizza. I don't know. We're going to hang out with family. So we hope that everybody has a wonderful time. And then we're going to try to endure the massive amount of fireworks that goes off around our house. Even though we live in a place that is outlawed fireworks years and years and years ago, has not made a difference. Caleb, question for you. Do you have a favorite, like, food, like a 4th of July food that you love to eat on 4th of July?
Ice cream.
Ice cream.
Yes. I feel
So
like the
not like a barbecue or
go-to,
anything, but
for sure, the barbecue stuff. Go-to is hamburgers, hot dogs. You have to have that on 4th of July. But because 4th of July is obviously in July, we are always being cooked like we are the barbecue, being fed to whoever's going to eat us one day. So I'm already sweating, so I want ice cream.
what is your go-to flavor of ice cream?
For me, a 50-50 bar or an orange cream sort of float shake, if you will.
Like an
Sounds right
orange
up my alley.
creamsicle? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm not sure. Is there any ice cream that you don't like that you would be like, ugh?
Um, I've had some interesting flavored ice creams I haven't been a fan of. I'm not huge on chocolate ice cream.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Really? Like, what about Rocky Road? Because it has chocolate, but other elements as well.
Elements, ingredients added, excellent. Plain chocolate ice cream, keep it.
Where do you fall in the strawberry ice cream
Fake,
discussion?
fake strawberry, excellent. Real strawberry, allergies.
Yes, 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 yes. So an only fake Neapolitan. Do you do Neapolitan? It does have
In,
chocolate.
in and out, Neapolitan shake, excellent.
Everything is excellent at In and Out. Um, I I like barbecue stuff for 4th of July, but not the fancy barbecue stuff because I could never cook that fancy barbecue stuff. I can barely cook the hot dogs and hamburgers, but I tell you, a good Nathan's hot dog grilled on 4th of July, that's the way to go. Wash that down with a cheeseburger. Mm, mm, good stuff. What about any?
You're
What?
gonna wash it down with the cheeseburger?
Yeah, yeah, and then I'm gonna wash that down with probably a Neapolitan shake from In-N-Out Burger. Although I don't know, are they even open? I don't know. Is In-N-Out open? Let's find out. Let's go to In-N-Out right now.
Yeah, let's
All right,
go.
everybody, we're back. In-N-Out was open. I'm just kidding. I have no idea. What about any
What's
favorite memories? Do you have
hilarious? What's
what?
hilarious about that for the people who have been to In-N-Out that listen to our show is there's no way that we would have been able to just go in 30 seconds because it's always a crazy line. Doesn't matter what time of day you go when they're open.
I've been going to In-N-Out my entire life. I am one of the fortunate few that can say that. Although I'm pretty sure there's quite a few people, just because Los Angeles and the California and in general is a huge place with a lot of people. But I have been going and eating In and Out for my entire life, and I have never in my life seen it as busy as it is now. And you're right, the lineup, and you can go to the window and order. Some of them now have dining rooms where you can actually go in and order at a counter and sit down in the dining room. But like the older ones are literally just drive-throughs, and the cars go out onto the street and down the street. In some cases, it goes for blocks. And we're talking about a franchise that's been around since, I don't know, the 50s, the 60s. And I don't know, they are busier now than ever and they're more popular than ever. And I'm glad because I love me some In N Out burger. Um,
And this isn't even an advertisement. They can sponsor us though. I'd be happy to record every episode with a little In and Out hat on.
like YouTube Music, like Disney Plus, like HBO Max, like all those other places and things that we talk about, we do not get paid by any of them or In N Out. What about Fourth of July memories? Do you have any that stick out to you that you enjoyed from earlier in your life, or something that you like make sure you like to do on Fourth of July?
I couldn't speak to a specific memory, but I feel like one, you have to eat the hot dogs, the hamburgers, the stereotypical like American food on America Day. Um, but we have to go on the roof. We have to watch the free fireworks show that is our local residence. Um, and there was one time early in my relationship with my girlfriend, we didn't go up on the roof. We instead went up on the roof of my vehicle and just sat there and watched all the fireworks all over the place, just right in front of our house. And it was awesome.
Going up on the roof and watching the 3 to 4 hours of illegal fireworks is quite the show. Yeah, because it is a 360-degree view around our house. Like, people on our street are shooting these off. And just for full disclosure, we don't. I don't like doing that stuff. And actually, I get a little annoyed every 4th of July. That's my tradition. That's my favorite memory, is getting grumpy around 11:30 or midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, because the fireworks are still going off. that
Yep.
that's my favorite memory. No, that's not my favorite memory. I loved I love when we go up on the roof, especially when you guys were little and you guys could see just all over the place all these fireworks. But
Yeah. We would go,
as
oh, there's
always,
a big one. Oh, look in that direction. That was a big one. Ooh, that one's pretty. Just in, like you said, 360 view.
north, south, east, west, they're everywhere. And we hope that everybody, if you're going to be using fireworks, we hope that you have a safe celebration and that you are practicing safety when you're doing so. But yeah, it is quite a show. We should. I remember one time I pulled my phone out. You guys were young, and I started playing. I think it was the Star Spangled Banner by Ray Charles. I think it was Star Spangled Banner. Anyway, and I cranked it up, and I'm like, yeah, we're at a fireworks show. It's pretty cool. It's fun. Well, good times, good times. You got any plans this 4th of July?
I would like to not be cooked. Those are my plans.
I don't think you're going to succeed because we've already been getting cooked, so today should be no difference. No difference. All right, so we're talking House of the Dragon and we're talking about the Acolyte. I have a question for you. Do you have a preference which one we would like to talk about first? Last week, I believe we talked about Acolyte. Do you want to stick to that, or would you rather go House of the Dragon this time?
I am first going to bring out my soapbox and stand up on it, grab a bigger soapbox, put it under me, and then stand on an even taller soapbox, because I'm going to talk about writers in the absence of Luke, um, because I've narrowed it down to one thing in both shows, um, that rubbed me wrong in this week's episode of both. Writers are pitching to a, I don't want to say a dumber audience, but I think they think we're stupid. Because one, I'm going to touch on both and we can take the ship wherever it takes us.
Should
As
I give everybody a spoiler warning, or are you doing this non-spoilery?
um It's more like talking about the storyline. We can do spoiler warning just in case I slip up, but I'm gonna try and avoid a spoiler. Um,
That's reassuring. Okay,
yeah,
so everybody, yeah, if you haven't watched the Acolyte episode 6 and called, what is it called? I don't remember what the title is. I have it written down. Teach Corrupt, Teach slash Corrupt. And if you haven't seen the House of the Dragon season 2, episode 3, The Burning Mill, come back later, watch them, and then because spoilers potentially going forward.
yeah. Go have a Neapolitan shake, enjoy some fireworks, and then come back. Um, One in Acolyte. Why did they need to say unknown world? That is an immediate thought all people watching are going to have. And then followed up by showing that it was Kofar right after, it tells you, it indicates we don't know where that is. We're going to logically have that thought already.
Wait,
Am I wrong?
just I'm a little confused. I'm a little confused because you do know that Kofar and that ocean planet are two different places.
Yes, but didn't it
Okay,
say unknown world
it did.
before that
Yes,
scene?
it did.
Exactly, exactly. Following that scene where it said unknown world, it panned to the pretty skyline of
Yeah,
trees and all that stuff and said,
Kofar.
"Oh."
Right,
So
right.
it tells you that that planet that we were just in 2.7 and a half seconds ago was not Kofar. It was a different planet. We did not need to be told that it was an unknown world. That is implied.
Okay, okay.
Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
No, no. I have my own thoughts on the unknown planet poster thingy, the little board or whatever the tag. But I did not. I was not coming at it the way that you're coming at it. So I love your perspective. So keep soapboxing. Keep going.
The other side of it, and now I'm not talking quality, I'm talking just like, I'm not talking anything other than what we saw in this week's episodes. For House of the Dragon, the entire the entire point of the episode came down to the writers did not think that we caught Aegon, or we did not catch what's Rhaenyra's mom or dad's name?
Viserys.
Viserys. The writers did not think that we understood the gravity of the misinterpretation from Alicent and
Oh,
Viserys's conversation.
sure.
So they had to just say, open up, take this, and shove it down our throat all over again. We know that the houses are divided because of that misinterpretation. We did not need an entire other episode throwing it down our throats over and over and over, closing our chins, plugging our noses, and waiting for us to swallow it. That's how it felt. Don't get me wrong. Everything else, still a well told story, still incredible themes throughout the whole thing. But they think we're stupid.
Okay, I think we're going to disagree on that point because I have a different take on that scene with Rhaenyra and Alicent, and I can't wait to get to share my thoughts with you on that. So,
So the last thing I'll say before I take my soapboxes and put them back in a nice little
okay,
tidy
by
corner,
all means, yes.
a well told story is a well told story as long as the story is being told. It doesn't need to be spoon fed. It doesn't need to have anything too creative, too complex. If the story is being told, great. We don't need to follow up things over and over and over. It's why I personally don't like a bunch of flashbacks. If you wanted the story to be understood at that point, you would have told it already. That's my thing. So, fin.
That last point, are you directing it more towards House of the Dragon or the Acolyte, or does it apply to both?
The flashbacks,
No, just the story being told when the story is being told.
just in general, this isn't a shot at either shows. It's just what the recency is adding into my brain. It's just an overall overarching writers think we're stupid and they just happen to be the most recent ones, and I don't think they need to dumb it down. If they're telling a story, the audience is going to understand it, or guess what, they're going to be explained by people like us or people on the internet in one way or another. It's a great way to just stem up conversation. Like they don't need to do what they did, in my opinion.
Are you referring to one of the many podcasts that swim around in the huge pool of podcasts that we are swimming around in, like I
Yes.
referenced in the beginning of the show?
Yes. I like it.
So I go back to my original question, and thank you for sharing your soapbox thoughts. I love it. It's setting the tone for our discussion. Which do you want to dive into first, Acolyte or House of the Dragon?
Let's continue the pattern. Let's go House of the Dragon this time.
House of the Dragon. Okay, here we go. No, wait. We did Acolyte last.
Yeah.
We did
So
Acolyte
now we're
first.
gonna go
Oh,
reverse.
swapping.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I got to turn my notes back around to my House of the Dragon notes. Um, you know what? Since you already referenced the Alicent and Rhaenyra thing, let's just go right to it. So let's start at the end. Here's my thought on that, and you, the way you took it. First of all, I want to share with the people listening that two times before I watched this episode, because I think you watched it Sunday night. I didn't watch it till Tuesday.
That's crazy
Two-
because
Mm.
normally roles are reversed. I'm over here recording or watching it like seconds before we press record, and you have watched it 7 times before that.
It's not far from the truth. Not quite 7 times, but definitely six. Um, so my point is that you two times you asked me, did you watch that snoozer of an episode?
Yeah, I did.
Not just once, you doubled down on it like the next day. So, did you watch that snoozer of an episode? So I know how you feel about it. I disagree with you. I have to tell you, I could sit here and watch most of these characters, like the main characters, I could sit there and watch them talk at tables or in empty rooms for 25 episodes straight. I absolutely gobble up all the okay, Luke, writing and the dialogue, the performances and the conversations and the settings and the sound. One thing I wanted to refer to back in the episode from last week when Massaria and Rhaenyra were talking in I don't even know if it was her chambers or what that was. Is that like Rhaenyra's office? Their first conversation, you could hear like dragon sounds in the background, and I'm like, oh my god, I was just like geeking out on the fact that they're just putting that level of detail into each scene in this show, and I'm just really 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 enjoying this season of this show. So going specifically to your point about Rhaenyra and Alicent, I don't see that scene or that occurrence or that development in the show as them doubling down or even tripling down on the fact that this entire thing has come from a mistake or a misunderstanding. I look at it as this is the last straw. Alicent is one of the only level-headed people in House Green, and that should tell you something about House Green. And Rhaenyra is practicing restraint to the point that her council are talking to her about removing herself and letting them just go to war. Like, let's just go to war. Get out of our way. So many people want to get to this bloody atrocity that we're all waiting to see happen. And these two women are at the top and in most control about being able to stop that. And the restraint that Rhaenyra has shown has been, in my mind, so commendable, and it portrays her strength as a person. But there was one thing she needed before anything was going to happen. She had to talk to Alicent. And we find that out after Rhaenys talks to her, right? Like in this episode. She didn't want to talk to Alicent. She didn't even want to read that letter. But Rhaenys is like talking and saying, hey, look, Alicent and I had this conversation. She's one of the only level headed people over there. So it finally convinces Rhaenyra to go over there. And I think this had to happen so that Rhaenyra can go back and say, look, I've exhausted all my resources. She now knows, like in her mind, Alicent is now accountable. They uncovered the fact that there was a mistake that was made Even though Alicent says over and over and over again, there's been no mistake, there's been no mistake. Alicent knows now there was a mistake, and she's now choosing not to do anything about it. And now Rhaenyra knows that. Rhaenyra knows that Alicent knows, so now Rhaenyra can go, okay, I've exhausted all my resources. I don't want to, and she said this, I do not wish to rule over a kingdom of ash and bone. Now she knows there's no other way. So she's going to go back, and episode 4, cue the nuclear war. So I don't know. Does that make any sense to you, or what does it change your perspective on why they did that?
100% I agree with you. At no point did I think that it was a bad story. My one issue was just from the consumption perspective, not the story, just feeling like they needed to walk us perfectly to that point again. That was my only issue. I completely agree with what you're saying because now Rainier is going to say, okay, I tried. This was it. Now we're going to not just have a cold war, but we're going to have a full on war now. And that's not a pun intended because I'm not talking about fire breathing dragons by any means, but that would have been really funny if I thought of that. It was Viserys coming out in Rhaenyra. He was a peaceful king. He did not have any intent in starting wars, never had a need to, and she's trying to do the same thing, especially because it's with her own family. It's against people. It's against people that she's known all of her life. She understands the stakes, and it's not just about a crown to her, it's about everything else. It's not that important that she's going to kill all of her blood just to sit on the throne that everybody else values far more than she does. She feels it was her birthright. The last conversation she had with Viserys was that it was her throne to take, but um, that's all from a kind and peaceful heart, or else we would have been like the season would have been over. Everybody would look like the opening scene of this episode. So I'm glad that it's not. But the reason I made, let me defend myself for a second. The reason I made those comments were to sort of like poke and prod you to watch it so I could like make more snarky remarks, but with
Oh,
context.
your snoozer remark.
Yeah, the snoozer remarks. Because I try and be like you in the way that I don't try to have expectations. I just watch what's in front of me instead of reading things, seeing things online. It's why I don't like trailers, and I feel like I talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
Um, but the expectations definitely got the best of me for this episode because in like the post scene hype video for the next episode, it definitely was like, oh my god, there are so many dragons on the screen right now. I'm so ready for next week. But they did
Yeah.
it all again at the end of this past episode. So we're eventually going to get there. Maybe they lead us on a little bit longer and they push that further down the road. But who knows? I don't think they'll do that because that's just the kind of thing that R. Martin, is that who it is?
George R. R. Martin.
Yeah, he's quite the brain.
He's quite a character. Um, I want to comment on the expectations that they set for us with that trailer for this episode, which did certainly make it seem like there was going to be sort of the kickoff of a large battle. And I go back. I actually wrote down this word because I think that this word encapsulates what this episode did and what this show has been doing now for almost like 13 episodes going back to season 1, and the word is restraint. It's I'm pretty sure that they have very large budget on this show. I'm not sure that any television show has the budget to have all out dragon warfare
Yeah,
for 6, 7 episodes. That's why they probably have a shorter season. Last season was 10 episodes. This season is 8. And I feel like now we're up to the episode that will get us to the halfway point, and we may not see full all out war like we're probably going to at some point, but I'm pretty sure we're going to get a little bit more action.
I
Although I don't know, and if we don't, I don't care because, like I said, I'll sit there and watch these guys talk. But you, sir, are very much like Aegon, like to war then. He's like,
How dare you put Aegon and I in the same sentence? How
he's like,
dare you?
you are the young buck that's like surrounding all these decision makers, just like, let's go, let's start flaming each other.
No,
Don't worry,
I
we'll get.
I am not like Aegon. I just want to watch it.
You mean to say that you don't cosplay in your great grandfather's armor?
Stop airing out my closet. What are you talking about?
Anyway, there is a couple of things that I wanted to say about Rhaenyra and Alicent. That scene, first of all, magnificent. Like the entire three episodes now, where we've had dialogue, 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 lots of stuff happening, and then the last 10 minutes of the episode is just like, what are you talking about? What are they doing? First episode was blood and cheese, going on their mission for Damon. Last episode was the twins fighting, just super tense. And then this episode is ending with Rhaenyra literally going into the wolves' den. Although no, she's not going to the north and visiting the Starks. She's going right into King's Landing, and she's going to have a face-to-face conversation with Alicent. I mean, how many things could go wrong here? So many. And I just have really enjoyed the structures of these episodes. One of the things I thought was pretty funny was when Alicent first saw that it was Rhaenyra. She's like, what if I yell out, or what if I call out? She's like, oh, well, your guard will come and kill me, but I will have killed you first.
Yeah, that was funny.
It's good stuff. Um, and then the other thing, and then we'll move on to other stuff, was when Alicent said that Viserys changed his mind. And Rhaenyra is just like, hours before that, I was with him and he reaffirmed my claim to the throne. And but then from Alicent's perspective, she's not lying. She only knows what Viserys told her, and she copped to that. She said it was hard to understand. He was not well, and she said he changed his mind. And she says, I may have been unkind, but I have never been untrue. And then you
What a
saw,
line.
oh, so good. But then you saw in Rhaenyra's face, she believed it,
Yeah.
and she was shook. Like, that took her a minute to gather herself and be like, but good on her for saying, hold on a second, I need to poke and prod a little bit here. I need to peel back some onion layers
Yeah.
because this isn't adding up.
Yep.
And then when she did, that's when Alicent got to the point where she's just like, she said, Aegon, the prince that was promised. And then you saw again in Alicent's and Rhaenyra's face, you're like,
What a performance.
oh, so good. So, so, so good. Really amazing. And that's why I say I could sit here and watch these characters just sit there and talk to each other in candlelit rooms for 45 minutes and then give me some tense action or something. It's just amazing. It's been stellar. You mentioned the Brackens and the Blackwoods. You referenced the fighting between these two young people, and I wanted to ask you, because clearly they had a massive battle.
Yeah.
Massive battle. What did you think about not seeing the battle?
I was okay with it. I am very aware that this season is shorter, and my brain can't help but go to the real life aspects of everything. Like you were talking about with like the literal CGI manpower to make the dragon all out battle. Like nobody has a budget for that, especially because of all the real world stuff with the strikes and the very limited numbers and literal hours available for so many artists to be able to design and draw and animate and all this stuff. It makes me think of the time that they're trying to, it all comes back to the story that they're trying to tell as well. So taking, even if it was 6 minutes, that's 6 minutes that they're not putting to another story about the Targaryens, about the High Towers, about the throne, even though it like minimally has to do with what sides they're on. I was okay not seeing these two brand new characters, brand new families, brand new hatred, brand new history, not on our screen, because then it jumped right into everything else that had been like leading up to that point.
It's a really good point because we didn't know any of these characters, and even though we learn that their feud goes back to the point where nobody even knows what they're feuding about anymore,
Yeah,
we don't know them.
exactly.
So that battle wouldn't have had much cost for us as viewers. We would be look,
Exactly.
oh, this is a cool spectacle, but we wouldn't have had any emotional involvement.
Yeah, with the story comes the purpose, right? So that family, that scene served its purpose. It said that we don't even know what they're fighting about anymore. And then moments later, they said that they're like Rhaenys is talking to Rhaenyra
Yeah,
about what are they going to say?
yeah.
How are they going to remember this war that's starting? Are they going to remember everything except for what you think they're going to remember it by?
That's a very interesting point too, because I do want to get to a thing that I watched, a sort of a behind the scenes thing that I think you'll really appreciate and enjoy. But your point about them cutting right to the funeral for the two Cargill twins, and you have Rhaenyra and Rhaenys talking, exactly what they're talking about was what we saw with the feud between the Brackens and the Blackwoods.
Exactly.
Rhaenys' point is like, what started this war? And then Rhaenyra was like, they usurped my throne. And she's like, well, maybe it was the killing of a child, or maybe it was the killing of your child, or maybe it
Yep.
was when that child took Aemon's eye. That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
She's like, these people have now have the, I think she said they have the bit in their mouth, right? More good writing. And these guys just want to go to war and they're not even going to remember what they're fighting for. They just know that they want to either win or survive. Um, and that was played out very nicely in the story of the Brackens and the Blackwoods, because we learn later on when Damon goes to his haunted house and talks to Sir Simon Strong. He's just like, that feud has been lost to time. They don't even know why they hate each other.
Yep.
So very very cool, like like story thread that just sort of goes through. I guess you would call that a theme, huh? But the cool fun fact that I thought was really interesting, there's a sort of a behind the scenes companion series called The House That Dragons Built. And the episodes are only about 20 minutes, and they do like literal behind the scenes stuff about each episode of House of the Dragon. And they were talking about this scene. So you remember when we saw the two groups feuding and then it just cut to the destruction, the first thing we see is the, I believe it's the Bracken kid, the
Yeah.
longer hair kid. We see
With
his,
the sword.
he's dead and he's got a sword through his neck, and it
Yeah.
just sort of pans up the sword. That was a prosthetic dummy. That was not a real
Wow.
human being. And they scanned the actor's face with this machine, and they show him doing this. They scan his face, and they printed his head. They like 3D printed his face and his head.
Do you think they let him keep it after?
Oh, that would be really cool.
That'd be really cool.
What a keepsake, huh? Souvenir.
Yeah.
And so then they made an entire dummy out of him,
Mm.
and they're like, they showed them putting him in the water, and like, how are we going to position this? And they're like, how are we going to keep the sword from, to stand, because we're gonna have this tracking shot up the sword. And they just said, we jammed it in so far it just stuck into the mud right through the neck of the dummy, and
Wow.
it just stayed there. But I
That's
thought it
cool.
was remarkable.
I'm really glad you said that because I couldn't help. I apologize for not knowing the child's name, but the one that got beheaded. Um, I kept
Oh yeah,
thinking about like,
Jaehaerys.
yeah, exactly.
No, I'm
Uh,
sorry, Jaehaerys.
Jaehaerys. I kept thinking about like, did they make the actor for Jaehaerys lay there and put like makeup and whatever with the stitches and the slit and all that stuff and just make him lay there while they were recording? But it makes sense. Maybe they did that for that too.
Thank God they didn't go into that, because I am so finished with seeing this poor child.
But we told you, Luke and I told you, that's not going away. That is not going away.
They have now found a way to work it into
Oh
three
my god.
episodes.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that. So let's just go to that. Let's just go to Damon's adventure to his haunted house, Harrenhal. And that was all great. Cool. He's there. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't even know what Harrenhal was. I know it's important, and Damon needed to go there to get an army and whatever. I was not expecting him to show up to a decrepit, empty castle.
Yeah, that
And,
was
like,
visually very cool.
very startling, very
Yeah.
jarring to see him.
I've always thought of that. Like even when I was watching Game of Thrones, it's like There are all these perfectly kept castles. There are wars. Why don't we see more just absolutely obliterated castles? And Harrenhal, from what I understand, is the biggest castle. Like he was, did he say in all of
Yeah, he
Westeros?
did. Yeah, Damon said in the Seven Kingdoms or something like that.
Oh, even bigger scale. For the biggest one to be in the shambles that it is now was really, really cool to see and sort of like comprehend.
The person that designed that set, and they said that they built that set that was so big that people were getting lost on set. So that whole thing was one
Wow.
big massive set. Like you see him walking through these doorways
Yeah.
and this hallways and going into these rooms. It was one big massive set, so big that people were getting lost. And the person that designed it was given a description of what it should be by Ryan Condal, the showrunner, and he said that the way it was described was a haunted place designed by a deranged mind.
Wow. I think
Yeah,
they nailed that.
pretty epic, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, he goes in and he has a illuminating conversation with Simon Strong. Strong is the nephew of Laris. He
Yep.
calls him Laris Clubfoot. We see this one random lady walk in, and you knew she was going to come back because she gave this weird look at Damon, like, okay, well, everybody else just ran out. We never even saw their faces, but this person's walking in. So what's that about? We soon find out later because he has a, I think it's a vision. I don't think he's asleep, and I don't think that's a dream. Do you think that's a dream that he experienced, or was that like something supernatural happening to him?
Which point are you referencing? All of
Well,
it?
when he's in his chambers and he's already out of his armor, and the door starts to bang, and he goes
Mm,
out and he sees young Rhaenyra with poor little Jaehaerys, then we get to see him again, and
yeah.
then he's sort of transported to the tree, that red tree, and that lady is back there, and she says in a jarring American accent, "This is
Yeah.
the place you're going to die."
I caught that too. I was like, nobody has an American accent in this, and then her, the one that just absolutely scares the hell out of everybody, has an American accent.
Where are you from? What
Yeah.
what part of Westeros are you from?
Exactly.
Nobody sounds American but you. So do you think that was a supernatural type of situation, or is was this a dream? What do you think?
So I'm not trying to be tedious, but I do have opinions, so I need to know, are you asking if the dream is all the way through the end of the episode, or is the dream ending before he shows up in front of the tree?
Just the stuff that happens to Damon from the time we see him in his chambers to the tree.
Okay, so I believe, and maybe I'm wrong, in like the director's commentary after, he did say it was a dream, and he tried to make sure everybody understood that by having young Rhaenyra in there. I thought that was everything up to the point where he was in front of the tree that like Bran was always sitting by. So
Yeah,
I
yeah, that's
think
the brand tree. Yeah,
so I definitely do think it's a hallucination. And my immediate gut reaction was, man, they're making my man Damon soft. And I immediately was like, how dare they? And then I remembered the Targaryens are historically insane.
yep.
So it makes sense. And all of the characters to this point that are Targaryen, Damon in House of the Dragon is pretty much the only one at this point that's absolutely just like, I'm going to put myself in a position where I could die at any moment and look super nonchalant about it. But we've never seen the mind go completely. And I think we're starting to be introduced to that by this dream, by this like weakness in his brain where he's now having almost a conscience. I don't know. I think that's sort of how I see it.
Interesting. That's an interesting take because I also heard the comments from the director, and she did call it a dream. And I think that's misdirection.
You think?
I think that it's magic, and I think that it's
Ah,
magic because, and I love the fact that they did it in a way that we can have this conversation where
yeah,
we're like one side or the other. I think that it's magic because Damon has always been a very real world person. He would
yeah,
always sort of rip on Viserys for his omens, like he was always being ruled by his omens.
yeah,
Damon was always a very like, I'm going out, I'm going to fight a battle, I'm going to fight a war, very hands-on, tangible existence that he has. This is the first time we see him sort of being touched by something that's not physical, that's something that's outside of the physical realm, and I love that either way, it's having the same effect on him because it's really messing with his mind. As
Yeah.
soon as he saw young Rhaenyra and little Jaehaerys, you saw in his face like that was very troublesome to him.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't usually get those kinds of reactions with Damon.
Yeah, and like that would have been the first time he would have seen Jaehaerys too, because he had assassins go for him. I use assassins very loosely, but he did have someone doing the bidding for him.
He had a rat catcher and a drunken security guard. Yes, but please, no more decapitated child. There's a lot going on in this
Yeah,
episode. There's other sort of scenes that. Oh, I think probably the last thing that I have that's of great importance, and then feel free to share any of your final thoughts on it. Is the fact that Rhaenyra talks to Rhaena and puts her in charge of taking her three babies,
yep,
two small dragons, and four dragon eggs far, far away. And Reyna is not happy about it.
like with Shrek and
Yeah.
Fiona.
Now I know they're going to be safe because they're going to,
They're
because I
getting
am,
another dragon in the family.
yeah. Yeah, and a bunch of donkey dragon babies.
Yeah. They're gonna be really confused when they get them.
Spoilers for Shrek 3 or whatever that. um so yeah, the I am experiencing anxiety until I know that these people arrive to their destination safely, because this is a recipe for disaster, right?
Yeah,
Like who are their security?
yeah.
Do they don't have a big dragon patrolling the skies above them? I don't even know what vehicle they're getting in. It looked like they were going down to the wharf, like, so they're probably going to get on a boat, but I don't know. That this is very stressful for me.
That wasn't a concern of mine till now, so thanks for that.
I'm glad I could help. One thing I did want to share with you, which I found to be quite interesting, sort of shocking, if I could say it that way. Literally just before we started to record, I read in two different pop culture websites, Nerdist and Mashable, which are legitimate sites, that the director of this episode confirmed, and they quoted her as saying this, that three out of those four eggs are the dragon eggs that Daenerys gets in season 1 of Game of Thrones. So you know how she gets that wedding present
Yeah.
of fossilized dragon eggs. Three of those four in that thing that Rhaenyra was covering up at the end before they take off. Three of those four eggs are the eggs that end up in Daenerys Targaryen's hands in Game of Thrones.
Wow. That is
Confirmed
very
by the
cool.
director. That's awesome, right?
That is very cool. Um, to th- I know I'm one of them, but I'm the one making the argument, so that's fine. But you know the people who say Die Hard is a Christmas movie because it's like Christmas time?
Yeah.
This episode confirms that it is Easter in their times because they had colored eggs.
I thought you were going to make an Easter egg joke.
Yeah, that's why. It
Like,
is an Easter
it's a
egg.
Game of Thrones Easter egg. You get
Yeah,
it?
exactly. It's an Easter episode.
Great. Oh boy. Spring in Westeros. Right.
Exactly. What a
New
beautiful time.
life. New life blooming everywhere. It's about to get incinerated by dragons.
The last thought that I have um, is twofold. I have two thoughts. So you'll have to fill in the blank for names for me. But the one patrolling skies that ends up chasing Cole and his entire crew,
Bela.
Bela, she is a baller.
Yes, she
No
is.
other word that I'd rather use. She is uh, incredible. She was told to just patrol the skies. Very keen eye from Cole. That's the only nice thing I'll ever say about him. He's a rat. Hate that guy.
He's
But
still the worst.
absolutely. But chasing all the way after because their only protection was literal trees, which which is hilarious to me because if she would have just said Dracarys, it would have burnt trees and had some fuel to kill them all. But then we wouldn't have a story. I thought that was awesome and
It was.
exactly what I would expect out of any dragon rider. Any thoughts on that?
First of all, the design of the dragon, whose name is Moon Dancer, the
Nice. That's a good
Ryan
name.
Condal gave the description to the designer of the dragon, two words: David Bowie. He said to make him look like David Bowie. That's why he has like a funky, like they called it a mohawk. I mean, I've never really seen David Bowie with a mohawk, but he's
Yeah.
had some wild hair. So yeah, and I also really enjoyed um, that the dragon is the one that saw the party down on the ground,
Yeah.
and the way they shot that made it very apparent that that was the case. And then Bela is so connected with Moon Dancer that she's just like, "Oh, what you got? What you got?" And then she sees immediately after. I thought that was cool. And then the last thing about that is, um, when she was briefing Rhaenyra, and she's just like, "Oh, well, how did you spot them from that? How do you know it's Kristen Cole from that height?" She's like, "Well, it really wasn't from that height,"
Yeah. I
but
love
she
that
played
little
it so well. It was perfect.
Yeah, I love that little tidbit where the dragon spotted it because to me, dragons are never just a resource. That shows like it's a partnership. They're working together. They're trying to make sure that Dragon Rider and Dragon are working together. Very cool.
I didn't understand this. Just to add to your point about the dragons, I didn't understand this last season when I was watching this, but I'm understanding it more and more now. These dragons are just as much characters as anybody else in the show.
Oh, absolutely.
They have feelings. They talked about them being lonely. They're smelling
Hungry.
war. Yeah, they have their own dynamic. They're their own
Yeah.
characters. They inform the story. They change. They have agency, and I was even thinking like, wait a minute, I'm interested in the like the dragon lineage as well. Like, wait, I think those eggs are from Syraxis, if I'm remembering correctly. So
Probably.
Daenerys' dragons are descendants of Syraxis. So I think I'm pronouncing it wrong, but I'm interested in like who begat who. Like, I need
Yeah.
a dragon family tree, just like I need a royal family tree.
It's called House of the Dragons. Now we need the Dragon Family Tree.
Yes, yes.
Um, Last thought on House of the Dragon was between Helena and Alicent. I
Yeah.
thought that scene where before the words could even leave her mouth, Helena was already forgiving her. I thought from just a performance standpoint, they were awesome, but from like a daughter to mother standpoint, I thought that was incredible because you could see how much that meant to Alicent because she was very obviously riddled with guilt with one the position she was in when Helena found her, but just the overall just almost like mechanics of what could have happened play like hypothetical situations if if Cole and Alicent aren't together, Cole is somewhere closer, maybe this doesn't happen, and then that was eating her alive. And to not even have to ask like, hey, are you okay, we need to talk about something, it was just automatic forgiveness, and then just the instant tears on Olivia Cook's face was awesome.
It's a great scene, and it's very subtle and very nuanced. Not only do we learn that Helena is an entomologist because she collects bugs, but she also, I found her commentary about how she feels sad. She was experiencing sadness because of Jaehaerys, but that she didn't feel like she really should. And she talked about like babes are always, they die
Yeah,
more
most
than
pro.
grown people. And then she actually has, being a person of privilege and in power, although an argument could be made she's not the most powerful person in the room, but she's still in a position of power and privilege. She actually thought of the fact that, quote unquote, the small folk lose babies much more frequently than women born to highborn women, I think is what she said. And that says a lot about her as a character, I think. And she has grown up and exists in this really terrible world, but she seems like she's a pretty decent person. And clearly she's got some, I think she has visions, and
Yeah,
she's a very interesting character. But I
she's
just
an
found that
oddball for sure.
very much so. Cool. Uh, Last thing I will end on is that Kristen Cole's still the worst. He will always be the worst.
Yep.
and he has, instead of a fancy pen, he has a pretty hand necklace. Did you catch that?
I did. I thought the necklace was cool, but I wouldn't give the compliment to him. If
I
Kristen
think the
Cole
I think the necklace is lame because Kristen Cole's wearing it. So
if Kristen Cole has a million haters, I'm one of them. If he has 10,000 haters, I'm one of them. If he has 1,000 haters, I'm one of them. If he has 100 haters, I'm one of them. If he has one hater, it's me. If he has no more haters, I've died.
he is the worst. And props to the performer whose name I didn't write down. I don't know off the top of my head.
Fabian Frankel.
Oh yeah, I do know that it was an FF name, an alliteration name.
I got tired of asking you over and over and feeling dumb, so I looked it up and have it on my computer screen.
He's killing it. Like all the props to him because
Absolutely.
it takes a talented person to make to perform in a way that you literally can't stand their face. Like,
Exactly. But not that many props because he chose to be that person.
I mean,
That's a
being
joke.
paid handsomely.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think that's going to do it then for a House of Dragon. Let's get to the Acolyte, episode 6, Teach/Corrupt. So if you haven't watched Acolyte season episode 6, Teach/Corrupt, we're going to be talking about spoilers. So yeah, Acolyte. I thought we would. I think we could have some fun here with this episode because this episode was not fun. So I think we should have fun instead of where there was no fun in the episode. Let's play a game. First of all, I want to hear your overall thoughts. And secondly, the game is going to be this. You're going to guess, I'm going to give you a plot point or something that happened in the episode, and you're going to tell me whether I liked that or I didn't like that. And yes, believe it or not, I actually have a few things on a list of things I did not like
Liar.
about. I'm
Liar.
God's honest truth. I show
Who
you. I
are
can show
you and what have you done with my father?
it to you. Anyway, so let me hear your overall thoughts about the episode.
Okay. Um, I'm going to talk about Thanos, and that's because he's inevitable. Um, I thought you'd like that one. Um,
I do. I was laughing. I just had my mic muted so you couldn't hear it.
I do the same thing all the time. It's terrible. Um, this episode, I don't know why. I think Thanos's scenes in part 2 is they're very peaceful and very eerie and just I don't know what it is about it. I just love it as a part of a movie. I don't know what it does for me, but it does a lot for me. This version of I don't know what to call him because he still doesn't have a name. The Sith. We'll just keep calling him the Sith.
On StarWars.com, they put up a profile of this character and they called it
Oh,
the Stranger. The Stranger.
perfect. That is a very ironic name because we didn't know what to call him. um,
Exactly.
the stranger is just sort of walking around. He's naked, taking a bath in the ocean, doing all this, but he's just uber relaxed, peaceful. Because to me, a part of him is thinking the job is progressed, not quite Thanos level. Job is finished, but he's right there among that aura. So I don't know what it was, but it made his character more respectable in my mind because
Hmm.
last episode I had issues with seeing him as the good place dorky character,
Yeah, yeah.
but in this episode I didn't feel that way as much. And I think it was because he wasn't I don't know what it was specifically, but it just all of it, especially him just getting back clothed, Osha's now holding the lightsaber, and just this absolute like control. I know you're not going to do anything to me. Was incredible to me. I think it was again. Talked about it a lot in this episode, but performance wise, I thought it was awesome. Story
Hmm.
wise, I thought it was really good. I really expected from your comments to me about this episode that I wasn't gonna like it, but I really liked it,
I
especially
never said
following.
those words. I
No,
never
no, no.
said those
Yes, but I think your like my comments to you, it was a little bit of like a let's wind this screw a little bit one way or the other.
words. I think if I remember correctly, I said that I think this episode is going to stimulate some good conversation.
Yes, that is what you
when
said.
we record. Yeah, which I could totally see you taking as like you're not going to like this episode
Yeah,
since
that's
I always
exactly
like
how I took it.
since I always like everything, right?
Yeah,
Um, I think I see what you're saying, and I agree with you. I like the ideas that they expressed through this story with the stranger, the character, as well as Soul specifically. And I don't know that they achieved what they set out to do.
I agree with that. As much as I liked the stranger in this, I didn't like what they were doing with Soul.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. We'll get to that. Um, I feel like so we've gotten the dorky Kamir, or I shouldn't say dorky. He's not really dorky. He's clumsy. He would pretend to be a drunk, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Then we've got this mass murderer in last week's episode. And this episode, I feel like they wanted him to come across as dangerous but relaxed. And I didn't feel any of the danger. I knew for sure nothing was going to happen to Osha,
yeah. I don't. That was never even a thought that came into my mind.
but I felt like they were going for it, and I don't feel
Mm,
like they got it.
gotcha.
I feel like they wanted attention in this episode through the whole thing, even with the May Soul stuff that didn't happen, as well as the Stranger Osha stuff. I didn't feel the foreboding that I think they were trying to get to.
Mm,
So I guess to borrow a phrase that I've heard out there, it was uneven in that sense.
gotcha.
For example, May is on a ship with Soul by herself. Well, essentially by herself, by themselves. That should be very threatening for Soul. I should be worried for Soul.
Yeah,
But the next thing you know, you've got Basil screaming his head off, trying to stomp on her foot, and Pip squirting oil in her face.
yeah,
That's not that doesn't jive. I didn't think it jived. I don't
yeah.
think that it worked. But I felt foreboding and a little bit of fear when Soul figured out who she was, or maybe Basil told him, I don't know, and had her detained on that bed or whatever that is, that cot. I actually felt like there was a little bit of menace from Soul that I had never
Yeah,
seen before.
I
He
completely
seemed,
agree.
yeah. So I'm not saying that that's uneven, but I'm like, okay, if you would have given me more of that, maybe out of the stranger, and maybe they did it on purpose. I don't know, because this episode was very much a master and an apprentice, and a master and an apprentice,
Exactly.
just not the right ones with the
Yeah,
right one, right?
exactly.
So I liked the structure of the episode in that sense, where we have one going off in this direction and another one going off in this direction, and seeing the differences in the two.
Mm,
But I didn't buy the stranger being the relaxed, devious good guy or nice guy. And I didn't buy that May was at all a threat to Soul. So I really wasn't worried about anything where I think they were trying to make us worried about things. And I don't think that I didn't feel it. And I can only speak for myself, but I didn't feel it. So,
I don't know what other word to use than the word that's in my brain right now. So I'm going to use it anyway, and then you can change it because it's a very, not quite a curse word, but it's a bad word.
oh,
I saw the stranger as very predatorial. And that's
okay.
not in terms of like a cheetah hunting its prey, more of like a predatorial person. He It's very obvious that he's a bad guy. He's not going to convince OSHA otherwise. But he's definitely playing the long game of I'm going to try and show you one way that you're not familiar with, that you've been taught everything that I'm trying to tell you is bad, isn't as bad as you think. And it's very Sith of him. So at no point did I think he was going to be the aggressor just based off of the beginnings part of the episode. So he ultimately, when the curtains closed on this episode, he ultimately got what he wanted. there's always something very eerie and bad about everything Sith, whether it's a lightsaber or especially the mask. That's been like a theme through a lot of Star Wars stuff. But he wanted her to look through that mask for a specific reason. And like we were talking about the House of the Dragon episode, maybe it's like a magic Sith thing that it's gonna be like contaminate her mind one way or another. So to me, I didn't think I needed to see the stranger as what he was in the mass murder episode, but I did see a lot of that in Soul because he's angry, he's spiraling, he's scared. Those are all things we haven't seen Soul be in episodes leading up to, and it's everything that Soul has taught everybody who's come across him the opposite.
Yeah.
How to control those, how to not let them be in the driver's seat. And now he's unconsciously and unknowingly letting those things take over. So at no point would I ever think that he would be in that position where I'm hearing him say, "Don't worry, May, I'm not going to hurt you." And my brain goes, "Oh, but you'll want to."
Oh, he definitely projects that he wants to. That's a really good observation. And another thing that I really liked, that the word that you used, predatory, yeah, it jumped me right to one of my major issues with this episode. And it was going to be the first one that I gave you on my list of let's play. Did I like this or did I not like this? So I'll just go ahead and stick with that and use that as a springboard to this, and because these are all just conversation points anyway. So I want you to guess if I liked or didn't like the whole bathing scene.
You did not.
I did not. I did not like it at all.
I thought it was
I
very curious. Not in terms of why they would add it as a story, but why they would add it at all.
look, if you want to show off people's physique, Manny Jacinto worked very hard to transform his body. He gets all the credit, and give the man his opportunities to show off all of his hard work. I have no problem seeing somebody's biceps or pecs, or I don't care. That is not what bothered me. What bothered me was that I think they were going for something that I don't think they should be going for, and then I don't think that it worked anyway. What I mean by that is that he seemed, and it's not just the bathing scene, but it was also the scene where he's holding the lightsaber up against him, telling her to kill him. He seems like he also talks about the word desire. It seems like this show was trying to set up some type of an attraction or desirable setup, for lack of a better phrase. I think I just used setup 3 times in the last 10 seconds. I think they were trying to come up with some kind of a dynamic between the two of them that was based on attraction.
Yeah, something different than he had with May.
First point did not work.
Yeah.
It was a big swing and a miss. Which, number two, I actually think is a good thing, because nobody should be glorifying or glamorizing someone as despicable as this character. And I've been seeing things online from the beginning, from the very end of last week's episode, where people are shipping these two characters, Osha and Kimber. Listen, I know sometimes that's all fun and it's all in fun games and stuff, but it's also a very dangerous message to send. Young people are watching this. In many cases, it's young women watching this, and young women should not be idolizing someone who's going to manipulate and murder them. That's just not a story point I think should be put in anything. I don't care what show we're talking about. And I think in one hand I'm grateful that this was a swing and a miss because I don't think it landed. The other hand, I don't like the fact that they tried to make this a story point with like this whole desire and attraction thing. He literally says to her, which sort of lends itself to the unevenness, I think, of this episode. He says to her while he's in the water, "If you're not going to join me, can I put on my clothes?" Like, so he's inviting her into the water while he's naked. I don't think that that's good. I didn't like that. It was not. it set the tone for this very wonky, uneven idea that they were trying to express. So I'll pass. No thanks on that. I didn't like that decision. So am I overthinking it? Am I over analyzing it? What are your thoughts on that?
No, you're going dad mode. I don't blame you. I wouldn't be surprised if other people felt similarly. Um, I just, to me, I didn't think in that way just because I didn't. Just plain as simple as that. Um, I saw all of that as the sheer and absolute evil that he portrays. And I think that evil has no limits. Evil doesn't, it can't stoop too low, is my point. So to do that, I think that was as far as my thought process went into that. But I don't think you're overthinking it. I think it is very, uh, it translates into real themes and like things as simple as like Max and Ruby can be pawned on anybody who watches it. So if something as big as Star Wars is going to have something that even insinuates a little bit of that, it's going to be picked up one way or another, which is unfortunate. One thing I will say before we continue our fun game of like or dislike, because I always like a good game, is another game, and by no means am I recommending underage drinking. Those who can drink and who can participate on this 4th of July should play the Acolyte OSHA drinking game. Every time they say OSHA or May, you take a drink. It is so redundant and annoying. It's all I can hear when those names are mentioned. But how many times these writers have added their names? And I understand they're twins. I understand they're trying to make the distinction. The hair was a huge thing. They've also highlighted the tattoo ample times, which caught on to. Maybe not, they don't expect a lot of people to catch on to it as well. But you make bigger distinctions to identify the characters. I cannot stand how many times they say OSHA, 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 May, May, May. And if you're playing the drinking game already, that's 6 more drinks for you.
I have to say that I never really caught on to it, but now that you say it, I absolutely hear every time that they've said it. Yeah, so
We
I'm
always
there.
love a good How I Met Your Mother reference. Glass shattering for you, Dad.
Shattered glass. Okay, so here's my next one. Did I like this or I didn't like this? Um, let's when May reset Pip to factory settings.
Hated it. That's my personal. I don't think you liked it either because droids definitely hold a special place in your heart.
I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I didn't like it because of what it did to Pip, and I also didn't like how they put it together because I literally saw her holding a smartphone from our world and pushing the power button and the volume button.
Yeah, that's literally how I need to restart my phone. I felt the same way.
And I don't want to. I don't need to see that in my Star Wars. I want to watch my Star Wars and not think about the world around me because I just thought to myself, "Oh my gosh, my Pixel phone is getting old and it's starting to glitch." I do that so much. And then the line too is clunky. She's just like, "I'm going to reset you to factory settings." Hmm. Anyway,
Yeah,
okay. So that's a little bit of a nitpick, but anyway. Um,
man. Luke's not even here, and he has you talking about writing and complaining about it. Look at you.
so let me. Oh no. What's my next one? Vernestra Rose lightsaber whip.
Ooh, I have to put myself in your brain because I have thoughts. Um, I'm gonna say you liked it. I'm gonna think you
I
thought.
didn't like it. I didn't
Okay,
like it. I loved it. I
I'm gonna try and
loved it.
guess
I
why.
loved that thing.
I'm gonna try and guess why. Indiana Jones meets Star Wars.
Sure. Yeah, that's definitely there. First of all, this is not the first occurrence of this. I can't tell you what it was in, but this is an idea that had presented itself in Star Wars beforehand. And I don't think that it was canon, but it was in Legends. So this isn't an acolyte thing. This is an idea that existed that they're bringing into canon, and I like it. Plus, here is another thing. I did not know about this, but if you read the High Republic stuff, you know a lot about Vernestra Rowe. You know about this character she constructed. No, I don't read it. You don't read it. Don't have time for that. but I know how to use Wikipedia, and I know how she constructed that lightsaber. She was a teenager. She was one of the youngest Padawans to be turned into a Jedi Knight. She had a normal lightsaber, purple bladed lightsaber, and she had a vision one night of a design to turn it into a whip. And she wouldn't go to sleep until she figured out how to actually do it, and she did it. She wasn't sure how it was going to be received by her fellow Jedi, so she hid the fact that it could do that and only used it as a lightsaber. Now, she had to reveal its use at one point because her and another Jedi were in like a jungle and they were going to be getting hit by acid rain, and she had to clear out a whole lot of brush to get to somewhere safe. So she turned it into whip mode and she used it. The Jedi that she was with told her, basically gave her a hard time about it. It's like, what did you do to your lightsaber? You know that the Night Sisters used that.
Mm. Ah, interesting.
So you see where I'm going with this? So Vernestra, it's not just a cool thing. There's a little bit of like questionable
Yeah.
decision making that led to this weapon. Which could that could that be foreshadowing of other questionable decisions? We have yet to
Now,
find out.
now I have a question. Which did you use? Did you say which as in WH or WITCH?
I said Night Sisters.
I enjoy a fun fact. Always enjoy a fun fact. Those were indeed a sequence of fun facts, plural. Um, I still hate it. I still hate it. And it's for one reason and one reason only. I am a lightsaber snob. It's why I didn't join you guys when we went to Galaxy's Edge and build my own lightsaber. Because no real world anything could build the lightsaber that I would want to build. I
Gotcha.
think they're so cool.
Yep.
Now, with all of that said, this is taking place way, way, way before all of the 9 Star Wars movies we have. So we've seen some cool lightsabers. We've seen Darth Maul. We've seen.
11.
Is it 11?
Rogue One and Solo.
Oh, I was considering just the triple
Skywalker.
trilogy.
I get
Yes.
it.
Yes, 11. That is a lot of movies. My goodness. Um,
3 more on the way.
Crazy. The thing that I'm trying to get to in a lot of words is people are a lot more creative these days. That to me is a disservice in actual, I don't want to say in canon because I sound like a nerd and I don't like feeling like a nerd, but in canon, it's a disservice to them because you're telling me that all of these lightsabers, thousands and thousands of years ago, could be yellow, could be whips, could have little daggers inside their lightsaber. So, so cool. But none of these lightsabers that we've seen in the movies are as cool. You're telling me they just stopped making cool lightsabers as cool as those because the writers and the designers these days, who have a lot more of a longer leash, in my opinion, to be a little bit more cutting edge and different with the new technology that we have available to us. Like it seems backwards, and that's how my brain thinks. I'm not trying to say I'm special or anything, but that's just I can't help but dislike them because we don't have them in literal sequential order being just as cool. Like, don't get
Um,
me wrong, Anakin's lightsaber incredible, not as cool as the Stranger's lightsaber. That might be the best lightsaber ever.
it's pretty cool. It is pretty cool. And when you say you're special, you are special. You're special.
Oh, thanks, Dad.
Um, so I think there could be an in canon, to use your nerd word, which I actually like. I think there could be an in canon explanation to that because when we meet the Jedi in Episode One, Phantom Menace, they're a very different Jedi than the Jedi we see now. They're much more rigid. They're much more. They're more like. There's a lot more Yords. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very true.
So that could affect the way that lightsabers are used and made. So many rules. They are following so many rules,
That is
and
valid.
then as we see through the they're annihilated. They're completely gone. So they go into hiding. The ones that do survive, and then the ones that we see in the original trilogy, we literally only see Darth Vader and Luke's two different lightsabers, and that's a very different world. And then by the time the sequel trilogy comes around, there's been no resurgence of the Jedi. It's just Luke, and he went to hide because he was ashamed, which is a story point I find fascinating and support completely. So we'll see where the future goes with the Rey movie and beyond, like the new Jedi Order. We'll see if they maybe can rediscover some of this creativity now that we have better technology for movie and to storytelling. But I see your point.
I really do hope they do because I think it's awesome. I think it's a very cool weapon in terms of all things everywhere fantasy. And anytime I can, and have anytime I have an opportunity to talk about Jabba the Hutt's lightsaber, it is the best. That is the best lightsaber.
I love what the one that goes pew pew or the second one.
The pew pew.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Also love the fact that that's a joke that you just is just part of your core being. I
Yep.
want to share one last fun fact about Vernestra Row before I move on to what will be my last question about did I like it or I didn't. Uh, Vernestra, there is the one scene where the one Jedi she's talking to says it was surprised that she was going to go on the mission with them and
Yeah.
said that hyperspace makes her sick, and she says that she finds it unsettling. Another thing that we've learned from the High Republic books and comics, she doesn't get sick. When she goes through hyperspace, it can frequently, not all the time, frequently cause profound force visions. So,
Interesting.
yeah. So she is quite the character. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with her in the next two episodes. So,
Me too. It is also not lost on me now that you bring up the Night Sisters, the tattoos she has on his head, the different
oh, I
color
just,
of her skin, different things
oh,
like that. Now I want to keep an eye out for it. I'm not
yeah,
saying like they're gonna say she's a Night Sister, but we've already been introduced into some sort of like dark magic and
yeah,
witches in this series. So who's to
true.
say there's not more of it?
Witches that had some tattoos on their skin.
Yeah,
Okay, last one. For the sake of time, I'm leaving a lot on the table, but for the sake of time, this is my last one. Did I like or I did not like OSHA putting on the helmet?
you did not like it.
It's a trick question. I liked it and I didn't like it.
I knew you were gonna say that. I knew you were gonna say that you were half and half, but I played by the rules. I think you liked it because it is a Star Wars helmet. You're a sucker for Star Wars helmets, but you
It's a
didn't like it
pretty
because
awesome helmet.
I agree. I can't help but think of what did you call it last week? You called it Smilo Ren or something like that.
Smilo Ren. Yeah.
The second I saw him working on it, I thought of it again. Um, you didn't like it because it is a bad person's helmet and OSHA's a good guy.
Um, you're correct in that it is a step closer for her corruption, which I don't ever want to see a good person in any capacity being corrupted or a bad person being further corrupted. So yes, correct. But I didn't, but I can see where that's going with the story. I don't have a problem with that because it's furthering the story. I didn't like it because when she put it on, the camera was from behind and then they shot to her point of view where you all you could see was darkness and a couple of slits. But then they shifted the camera angle and they showed her from the front and it just looked dorky. The helmet did not fit her. She should not be. It's not a good look. I don't think it's a good look. But I did like when they shot back to her point of view and you just saw the eye openings and you could see some light coming through and then it faded to black and you
Yeah.
could hear her breathing, which is a very on the nose Darth Vader reference, but it's still cool.
Wait, why
Um,
is it a Darth Vader reference? That's a
he,
joke. That's a joke.
okay, I was about to end the recording and go lecture you.
You would too.
um, but I liked how that, and then how they brought the credits up, and you just heard her breathing continually until the score started. I liked
Yeah.
all that. I also liked his explanation to her because he makes an Empire Strikes Back reference where he tells her it's a sensory deprivation type of helmet, and you only take it's only you and the Force and what you take with you. That's what Yoda tells Luke in Empire Strikes Back when he's going to go to the cave. He's putting his weapons on, and Yoda says you don't need those. You just take what you only need what you take with you, something like that. So
So
I thought that
you heard it here, confirming by Colby Mead himself. Yoda is the original Sith
I did
and
not
the
say that.
Acolyte Master. Yep, that's exactly what you said.
Fake news. It's not true.
Yeah,
Not true.
cinematically, I thought the shot where it cut to black after was very cool as well.
Yeah, but she just looked dorky with that thing on. She should not adopt that look. Like if she does, she's going to need to change her entire outfit because
Yeah,
it's just not.
or just be original, make your own, dude.
Make your own. She did see that one vein of cortosis that looked like going up the wall. So there's a lot of cortosis wherever they are.
That
There's
was
sort of
lost
like
on me. What's cortosis again?
cortosis is what the helmet is made of, or the metal that's in that
Oh,
shorts out the lightsabers.
yes, I
And it
forgot about that.
looked to me anyway that she was looking at the wall and they showed like this different colored metal or stone going up.
Yeah,
So it looks like there's cortosis wherever they're at. So
gotcha. I
that's
meant to ask you what that was because I looked at it and then was like, "What? What is that?" I just didn't understand what it was. Got it.
I'm going to give you homework. You need to go back and re-listen to our discussion last week where I go into that. So.
Oh, I'm fully aware of it now. One more. Do one more.
Oh, but that was such a good way to end it.
Oh, one more.
One more, one more, one more, one more. This is great podcasting.
No, it's
You
the
can just.
best. I like games and I like putting you in the hot seat. It's a perfect combination.
I'm going to give you a softball because I already tricked you. Um, do you think I liked or disliked the shot of dead Jackie? I need to see that just about as much as I need to see little baby Jaehaerys. Okay.
Oh my god, yeah, no, that's true. That is very true. I also laughed because your funny was face. Great. We should have ended the recording 2.5 minutes ago. Your face was very funny to try and tell me what you really felt about Dead Jackie. But I'm gonna say you disliked it. But
I
that's a
really did not
soft.
like it. I did not like that
Yeah,
at all.
that was rough.
No, I did not like that. I did not need to see, and her eyes were open and stuff. That was very
Yeah.
jarring. I mean, I get it. Like, I'm not, I really like Jackie. I miss Jackie. Hashtag justice for Jackie.
Now, the last thought I have forever. I will never have another thought. My head will go empty the rest of the time.
Let's hope
Um,
that that's not true.
no, of course not. Um, this is the first time in which both Acolyte and House of the Dragon are going on, where I think I can say I I think I enjoyed both episodes.
I'm so shocked because I
No,
really didn't think you liked the House of the Dragon episode, and you never liked the Acolyte episode. So I'm very surprised.
no, no, no. I have strong opinions about a lot of things. I haven't outright hated the series. I haven't outright disliked the series. I've liked a lot of things, but like one of us said, I don't remember what genius said it because I'm going to continue to quote it forever. All of it's really cool until they open their mouths.
I think that was Luke. I think Luke said that. Or it could have been you. I could
Yeah,
hear
who knows?
in both of your voices, one in
We
one ear and one in the other.
exactly. We record things. We don't listen to things.
Um, I'm glad that you made a distinction between hate and dislike because there's literally nothing in the show to hate. Uh, I understand the commentary and your points, Luke's points of things falling flat or not necessarily hitting for you guys because I experienced that more in this episode than with any other episode. And I'm rooting for the show. I always root for Star Wars. Really, I root for everything because I really appreciate people's efforts that they are able to create anything is a miracle. Right? It's very difficult to do these kinds of things. And I appreciate all the time and effort that people go through to put this on a screen in front of me so that I can enjoy 35 minutes of a story. Um, some of the things fell flat for me on this one, and I don't like that. I don't want that to happen. So hopefully we'll have a little bit of a course correction. But overall, I'm still enjoying the series. I like what it's doing for the Star Wars galaxy. There's a lot of thought provoking things. So I'm glad that you made that distinction.
Okay,
Yes.
I have a would you rather question for you. And for everybody. Would you rather have every single recording you wanted from your favorite musical artist, and it's only one, not every one of your favorites, one of them. You don't have to decide which. Would you rather have any of those at your disposal? So, for example, an unreleased Ozzy Osbourne song that has like a special Randy Rhoads riff or something that would just absolutely blow your mind and change your life, that has never been released, only in studio ears,
I can't
available
wait
to
to
you.
hear the other side of this question because that right there is going to be hard to say no to.
Right. I put no thought into this question. This is right off the top. The or because it's a would you rather. Um, so would you rather have that one or every scene cut, like everything ever of your favorite franchise available for you on, not even like on cloud because there's a cap for space, just unlimited data, unlimited everything for your favorite franchise, but it can only be one franchise. So another example like I gave you for Ozzy Osbourne, for Star Wars, everything they've ever scrapped, everything they've ever cut, directors, everything available to you.
I'm going with the Ozzy Osbourne scenario because number one, I already have what I want with Star Wars because it would be the franchise, and all of it is literally available to me at tapping my phone. And I am not interested in the stuff that got put in the cutting room floor because I am notorious for watching deleted scenes and being like, yeah, I'm so glad that wasn't in the movie. So I don't need to see all the different extra stuff. So yeah,
You're
give
telling
me
me
Randy Rhoads stuff that I've never heard before.
I love it. I feel very strongly similar because Kendrick Lamar, the GOAT, has a lot of unreleased songs that people argue are like his best ever. And I recently found one on SoundCloud that is amazing. I literally downloaded SoundCloud to have that one song available to me, and I listen to it like almost daily now.
Love it.
But I will play devil's advocate and argue. You're telling me that the I don't know. Let me come up with some crazy thing. The cutscene in The Mandalorian where Jar Jar Binks is talking to Grogu, you wouldn't want to be able to see that just because some person who had free time, which they shouldn't have, under like some dark desk in the corner of Star Wars Studios, wanted to design those and animate it so he could send it to two of his friends. You wouldn't want to be able to see that yourself?
I can probably find it on YouTube right now.
See, AI ruins that hypothetical. AI ruins it on both sides.
We live in a very technologically savvy world,
Yeah,
but I can never get. I can is only a finite amount of Randy Rhoads music that I could potentially find. So I'm
that's true.
taking unreleased Randy. So all right, excellent. Well, that was a nice way to end things. Um, all right, anything else? Is that your curtain call right there?
No thought, head empty.
Head empty. You have emptied the tank.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for listening for this episode of the to this episode of the Colby Cast. We hope you enjoyed our conversation as always. So for Caleb, this is Colby reminding you to have a great Independence Day. If you're in the U.S., if you're in England, have a nice day at work. You can find the Colby Cast on Twitter and Instagram at the Colby Cast. If you're wordy like me, you can send an email to thecolbycast@gmail.com. Please subscribe to the show and leave a review on your favorite podcast app or wherever you listen to podcasts. This podcast is not endorsed by anyone or anything for that matter. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of the Colby Cast unless otherwise indicated.
That'll do, Donkey. That'll do.